All right, kindergarten. Today we're going to continue to explore different story elements and things by using the book When I Was Young in the Mountains. So we've talked a lot about past tense verbs. We've talked a lot about what you notice and wonder from the story. We talked about the setting of the story. We talked about opposites. So the next thing I want to talk about is the main topic of the story. And the main topic is what life was like a long time ago if you were a child growing up in the mountains. The main topic comes from the author's memories. We talked about memories too. Her name is Cynthia Reliant. And this is a book about when she was 6 years old, so right around the same age as all of you. Maybe she was a kindergarten age or maybe first grade age, but around the same age as you are. She made this book from memories she had of things that she did when she was growing up in the mountains with her grandparents. All of her memories are different events from the story that go together to form the main topic of what life was like growing up in the mountains a long time ago. I want to take a picture walk through the book and look at some of the events that took place in the story so that we can get some ideas of Cynthia's memories. All right? Here's the first one. She remembered her grandpa coming home from work. Okay? She remembered having supper with her family. She remembered having to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night one time. She must have gotten really sick from eating, it said, too much okra. That's a spicy food. So she must have been really sick, and that memory must have really stuck in her brain for a long time to remember that as an adult. All right. She remembered swimming with her brother in the water hole. And there must have been a lot of snakes around because she remembered a snake being in the water hole. And we see a snake later in the story that came into their yard. This must have been a special place for her. She remembered going to the country store. Let's see what else she remembered. She remembered having to fill up water at the pump for her bath. And then sitting with her brother huddled up under a towel while Grandma made hot cocoa. She remembered going to church and to school and getting baptized. That's a religious ceremony in the river. Well, she probably doesn't remember it, but she remembered watching her brother. This must have been a really exciting event when she was a kid, because to remember her grandma having to get rid of a snake, that must have either frightened her or caused a great memory. And it must have been a big event because they took the snake and took a picture of it. All right? And it says traveling photographer. Back then, not everybody had cameras, so you had to wait for somebody to come through. And this is probably not one single night, but it's probably something that they did a lot. Sometimes there's something called a collective memory. It means you do something over and over again, and you just remember not maybe one specific time, but that you did it a lot. She remembers sitting out on the front porch, swing at night with her grandparents. So they probably did that a lot, and this is just something that she remembers doing a lot with her family. Like when I was a little boy, I remember going to the strip district with my dad a lot on Saturdays. Now those days all kind of run together. I can't remember one specific Saturday that we did something, but I remember going there a lot on Saturdays with him and things that we would do all the time. You know, there were certain stores that we would go in, so I remember that. That's called a collective memory. So there's an activity for you to do today. You have to complete the sentence frame and draw a picture. It says, when Cynthia Reliant was young in the blank, think about where she grew up, you have to finish and tell me something she did. Something that she shared with you, one of her memories. So you have to finish the sentence frame and draw a picture from one of the events in the story that the author shared with us through her memories. That's the first activity. The other activity I want to talk about is the word I. I is the very first sight word we learned this year in kindergarten. This author uses the sight word I almost on every page. Every page has the same phrase. When I was young in the mountains. When I was young in the mountains. It's even in the title. When I was young in the mountains. And I'm going to talk about that word I a little bit, all right? So the sight word I is always written as a capital uppercase letter, all right? It's not written as a lowercase letter, all right? And you should know that because that is our first sight word. Sometimes people forget that in their journal writing and they write a lowercase letter. So I wrote some sentences here. And some of them are right and some of them are not right. So we're going to look back and I'm going to use my red marker to look at it. First sentence, I'm going to underline it. It says, I like tacos. There's a lowercase I here, but it's in the middle of a word. Here's an uppercase I, and that's right because it's the sight word I. I like tacos. So this sentence looks like it's all done correct. Here's the next sentence. Can I play? I noticed this I here. It's not in the middle of a word. It's the sight word I, but it's not correct. I would have to fix it and make it into a capital I. Can I play? All right. The last one says, I go to the store. This is wrong for two reasons. One, it's the first word in a sentence, and it's not capital, and it's the word I. Remember, the sight word I always has to be uppercase. Uppercase. So there's a little activity that I want you to complete today as well. It's practicing using the sight word I and making sure it's an uppercase, because that's a huge mistake that kindergartners make. The page looks like this. There's going to be 6 sentences, and you're going to have to drag them if they're correct or if they're not correct. You have to look for the sight word I. I like to play ball. Does that look right to you? I went to soccer. Does that I look right to you? If the sentence has the correct use of the sight word I as an uppercase letter, you're going to drag it to the thumbs up. If it's wrong, you're going to drag it to the thumbs down because it's not correct. So 2 activities for you to complete today. One is to recall one of the events from the story and complete the sentence frame and draw a picture. The second activity is to organize sentences, whether they're correct or not correct, by using a uppercase letter I as a sight word. Complete both activities before you submit your work on Seesaw, and that'll be it for our lesson today.